We're going to go ahead and get started. We'll have people logging on through the process. I have everybody on mute. That's been sort of a challenge in the past, but I think I finally got it figured out. So hopefully there's no background noise for any kinds of distractions. Just brief housekeeping. If you do want to have questions, there's actually a little chat icon at the top of the screen that you should be able to send me any kinds of questions or comments throughout the webinar this morning. We will have a hard shutdown at 10 o'clock. North County Association of Realtors has another 10 o'clock event, so we'll have to be on time with that. If there are any lingering questions, you'll be getting a survey. This will give you an opportunity to ask any additional questions or comments. Obviously, give you an opportunity to create the marketing kit that's part of this webinar series. So I've put together this whole Realtor webinar series around renovation loans, and I've provided it into a couple of separate modules. And we went over them on Monday and Wednesday. Monday was the makeover. Wednesday was homes that have issues. This one is about creating income dwellings, and that obviously includes ADUs. So the agenda today is we're going to go through some real basics on how renovation loans work from a transactional standpoint. And then I'm going to share with you numerous income properties that we've created over the years. We'll definitely spend time on ordinances. That's a key part of this presentation. And then really just sort of talk about how renovation loans work in a purchase cycle. So there's going to sort of be an A and a backup strategy, as you'll see throughout the presentation. I also wanted to let you know that I've been managing a Facebook group on ADUs, and I would certainly encourage you to join us on our Facebook group. We have a great membership. I think it's over 600 right now, and I'm actively growing it. But there's a lot of key resources on there. There's architects and contractors, and there's a lot of people that specialize in ADUs. And it's been really great because I've seen realtors and consumers asking questions, and people are eager to respond. So it's really turning into a great website. Certainly look forward for any kind of social media connections that we can develop. So my name is Will Johnson. I have a home inspection company, Inspection Perfection. Since 2005, I have over 4,000 inspections under my belt. In 2008, I started to go through the certification as a HUD consultant. And really that was sort of a critical time on two issues. HUD finally started to raise some of the loan limits. That was sort of commensurate with the marketplace. And then we obviously had a lot of foreclosed properties to work with. So it was trial by fire. I've managed hundreds of these renovation loans over the years. I do about 2 or 3 dozen of these every year, so I'm very, very active with the program. I also have some certifications on energy assessments, and that'll be for another presentation. So one of the key differences about this whole series is we're going to talk a little bit about the different scenarios on how renovation loans fulfill a multitude of real estate needs. We've been providing training on that. But really important component of this is really just providing all of the marketing around this. So this really helps you get into the marketplace that much faster. So we've included a whole marketing kit and strategy. We'll encourage you to fill out the survey and really participate in this marketing kit. It's no cost. And then as you really start to have a transaction that starts to develop, that we can support you throughout the process. So building a team is really sort of critical to a successful escrow and implementation of a renovation loans. So we had gone over the makeover strategy, the homes have issues strategy. Today, we're going to talk about how we can create income with renovation loans. So just to sort of rehash what we've talked about in the past on why realtors should be looking at renovation loans and really have it as part of your overall strategy is, this can really be a go-to solution when there's really a scarcity of inventory in the marketplace. And what I think you're going to find is you're going to be able to do more with less. So we've gone through examples of that. And again, how these renovation loans continues to fulfill a multitude of real estate needs in the marketplace. And you're seeing that throughout this presentation. One of the key advantages of these renovation loans is it's based off of future value. And we've had a lot of experiences where sometimes the appraisal is coming in higher than the overall loan amount. So buyers get sort of excited when they started to realize, they are already seeing some equity on paper before they've even closed escrow. And I think this is just a real pivotal time in the industry and our marketplace right now. I think this is something that we're all sort of reevaluating, trying to understand how this is going to impact us individually. And I think this is an opportunity to really sort of look at some new strategies in the marketplace. And, I promise you, this will really help distinguish yourself. You're going to bring some solutions to the table that haven't previously been considered. And I think that's just going to raise your level of professionalism and expertise in the eyes of your client. And I think that's just really critically important. I think one of the things that works in our advantage is, I think the marketplace is already pretty well educated from all of these home improvement shows, flipping shows that are out there, the HGTV effect. So I don't think this is a stretch of imagination for any of your potential clients that this can be done, and this can be done with a lot of benefits to the client's perspective. Just to drive in a point that I just think is really critical for consumers to understand is the fact that these loans, the actual loan amount is based off of the future value. So all of those improvements that are identified in the construction budget are really allows you to create a much larger construction budget. And as you can see, we're going to need this larger construction budget in order to fund any types of income properties in the marketplace. Again, this goes back to what I previously talked about in terms of really separating yourself in the marketplace, that as a renovation realtor becoming really familiar with these renovation loans, this will really give you some strategies that really separate you from a crowded marketplace in terms of real estate informers. So let's talk about renovation loans. These are government-backed insured loans. HUD 203K, Fannie Mae has home style. Those are the only two products that I have direct experience in working with. There are loans available from VA. Freddie Mac has a product that came out last year. I have not been approached about supporting these types of programs, but these are all available to you. And again, this very simply allows us to add a construction budget in conjunction with a home purchase. So you're going to make an offer on a property. We're going to work with a contractor, putting in construction budget. That all rolls into one loan. And again, the loan amount, overall loan amount, is based off of the appraisal, which is based off of the future value of the property with the improvements. So there's two types of renovation loans. There's a limited. This has really been sort of the ideal with the makeover that I went over in the Monday presentation, really sort of targeted for just doing finished improvements, flooring, painting, new appliances. Yeah, I think it's a budget. You can go very far with $35,000 if you're just doing finished improvements. And then the standard, which, starts out at $35,000 and again goes, again, based on the full loan amount. We are processing one right now where the construction budget alone, this is for income property, just the construction budget is over $400,000. So here's a couple of features of the 203K and the Fannie Mae home style. They both have the limited, the standard. You can see the FHA 203K has a lower down payment. Mortgage insurance, so this is sort of important to note that mortgage insurance is required with the 203K. With the Fannie Mae product, this can go away if we can protect 20% of equity. I don't think I mentioned that this is available these renovation loans are available for purchase and refinance. And so a lot of times when I'm working with a lot of refinance opportunities, they're looking foremost at the Fannie Mae product, again, just to remove that mortgage insurance. We also have a distinction on the appraisal. On the 203K will allow us to go to 110% of the appraisal. So what that means is your overall loan amounts will allow you to go 10% over the appraisal. And that's sort of important when we're working on specific projects. In fact, keep this in mind. If you ever run into a scenario where the appraisal isn't supporting the loan amount on just a standard transaction, think about this. We can convert this to a 203K, get to that 110%, and now we can fund. You'll be a hero. One of the other distinction is Fannie Mae requires owner occupancy, so that's required. The Fannie Mae home style does allow us to work with investors. There's a couple of other conditions. You have to come in with at least 15% minimum down payment on it. So it does allow us to work with investors. And I think this will come into play when we really start talking about income properties. So it's important to realize when we go into this through a purchase cycle that, we have a couple of new key players in the process. A lender that really needs to be specialized in renovation loans, contractors that hopefully have some familiarities with construction loans. They're really key and important. I'll say this, and I'll say it several times through the presentation. It's really important that the home buyer is selecting the contractor, not taking a recommendation from me. They're not taking a recommendation from the realtor or anybody else. They really need to own the selection of that contractor. I can provide a list. And again, I make it really clear that the borrower needs to vet the contractor and take on that responsibility. Okay, renovation loan consultant. So I'll go into more of that through the process. One of the, I think when it comes to the point of when should you start talking to a renovation loan consultant is absolutely at the very beginning of the process, before you even opened up escrow, because then we can start really sort of going through the process and the strategy and just make sure we have things in aligned as we open up escrow. So my first role is to do a home inspection / compliance inspection. That basically provides a lot of health and safety conditions. Are there any real deferred conditions? Do we need a new roof, a new electrical system, new heating and cooling system? So I'll put together a compliance list, and then that'll help sort of dictate all of the components that need to go into the construction bid. So you have your wish list from the buyer in terms of building an ADU or income dwellings. We need to make sure we're adding all of these compliance items to the construction bid. So I put the documentation together. HUD refers it as a work write-up documentation. That really needs to be completed before we could submit to the lender. Once the lender accepts it, they order the appraisal. I'd like to sort of do our homework, feel confident that the appraisal is going to support the overall loan amount, and then we close escrow. And then another important aspect of the loan is I stay with the project. I manage the release of the funds. It's really critical that the contractor understands that we're not going to release any funds until work is actually completed. As soon as I come on board, I want to have that discussion with the contractor so they clearly understand that they have working capital. And this also brings in a real important consumer benefit to this. You know, we'll never have this scenario where the contractor walks off with the money and leaves us high and dry in a project. That really doesn't happen when we have fund control in this process. It's important for realtors to really understand that the buyer is protected through this process because of that. It's nice to know once we close escrow, the realtor pretty much in terms of their process, they're done. I'm staying throughout the completion of the project. General contractor, as I mentioned, needs to be selected by the home buyer. You know, they will review the renovation needs, make sure we include the compliance items. They'll submit the bid. The bid comes to me. I'll review it, make sure that this really complies with the lender's guidelines. And this is a process that sometimes takes several iterations. And I try to explain that to the contractor as soon as they come on board. The loan requires material costs, labor costs, detailed description of work that's going to be completed, the types of materials that are going to be involved, what type of flooring do we have, what type of roof. And sometimes I've had to sort of go back to the contractor to provide that material. So I'm really trying to manage those expectations early on in the process because we're trying to do this through an escrow window and time is of the essence. And again, as I mentioned previously, funds are released based off of completion of work. So as the contractor does the demolition and starts some of the foundation work, they want to get reimbursed. They contact me. I go out, verify that demolition is done. We will release 100% of the funds for the demolition. And if they're 50% through the foundation work, we'll release 50% of those funds. And we'll keep doing that until the project is completed. HUD and Fannie Mae have timelines on when these projects can be completed. I've been in a lot of scenarios where we've had to go way beyond this, but we have to sort of try to work within the loan, within these time frames. If we can't do it as we're out in the field, we go and we ask for a request to extend the timeline. It's not uncommon, and when we're doing very sophisticated projects like this is almost to be anticipated. So let's go into a little more details on this. Get the HUD consultant involved early on, just so we can really understand the process and really start queuing up the contractor and get them on board early on as possible. I'll do the compliance inspection. That report comes out literally the next day. So that gets forwarded to the contractor, and those compliance conditions are going to be incorporated into the construction bid. And then I'll be working with the contractor, revising the bid, putting the workup documentation together. Once that's complete, submit that to the lender. They order the appraisal. The appraisal comes in to support the overall loan amount. We close escrow, it funds. Again, the realtor is done, the lender is done. This loan gets transferred to a draw or disbursement department, and I'll be working with that disbursement department of doing draws. The loans typically allow us to do up to 5 draws. Fannie Mae will allow us to do more. Again, we've gone into some scenarios where we've had to increase that. We sort of figure that out throughout the process. So we've closed escrow, and we'll come to some points where we need to add additional draws. We can usually accommodate that, but that happens after the loan is funded. So this is a key part of the process is to really try to get a lot of this done before we actually open up escrow. Put your team together, obviously identify properties, get your contractor on board, have your contractor working on the bid. If we are creating income properties, we have to start putting plans together. Ideally, we'd like to have some preliminary plans put together before we even open up escrow. So when we build a team, we obviously need to have a HUD consultant involved early on in the process. The contractor, need to get them on board, and then have your lender. So you really want to have this team in place before you actually before you start making offers in the marketplace. We have some additional tools for you. We have a bid template that's is available. I thought I had a flyer on that. Digital measurement. So that's a device where you can go out and quickly start capturing measurements. If you've got a particular property in mind, then let's start getting measurements down. We'll start needing that kind of information to start putting the bid together. We can start working with an additional resource like bringing an interior designer on board. I work with interior designers on makeovers. We actually have some relationships with some home improvement organization that sort of the Costco of home improvements. So we have actually a couple of design centers that we could send potential buyers to start looking at finished improvements. So let's talk about income properties. Some of the motivation is to offset mortgage payments, create passive income stream. One of the things that you'll see in this presentation is, which obviously investors have known for some time now, is a lot of times we can have real attractive construction costs versus market value. And then ever since the ordinance came in play with ADU granny flats, you'll see in some of my upcoming slides here that market is just going to take off. In fact, in some areas, it's actually exploding. So like on the 203K, we can add up to 3 additional units. One of the distinctions about the 203K is the additional units that we're adding must have a physical attachment to the existing dwelling. And, an awning is not going to suffice. It actually has to share a living wall to comply with that standard. Fannie Mae actually will allow us to do detached properties. So here's 3 projects that we've been involved with. Back in 2014, if you look at the bottom part of the screen here, we built this. It's actually a 3-story unit. We attached it to the garage, the detached garage, which actually had been converted to a living area. So that's how we satisfied the attachment condition out there. In 2015, believe it or not, that a unit that you're looking at is actually a duplex. It sort of bumps out in the back. The right side of that unit was not habitable. And so let me go back to North Park. The North Park was actually a purchase. So we were able to do that. They had already had plans put together as they were submitting the offer to the seller. Back to Imperial Beach. So we completely renovated the right side of the property. We turned that into a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, roof deck. That's 2 blocks from the beach. That was a young man in the military. I'm just so happy that, he made a very sound investment with it. He just shared with me that he recently sold it, and he's looking at doing this again. So there's a lot of marketing momentum that you start to develop once you start to create these solutions for clients in the marketplace. We did another one in 2016. This was actually a contractor. This was a really cute bungalow, 2 bedroom, 1 bath. But he had growing pains. He had a baby on the way. So they basically attached 3 story. The first story is a 2 car garage. Second story is a living area, and the third story are 3 bedrooms. So it's a 3 bedroom, 2 bath. He did that obviously because he had a real need there, but it was very exciting because his mortgage payment, again, this is back in 2016, came in around $2,700 a month. He was able to rent out that front unit for $2,000 a month. And this is back in 2016. So he's very, very excited that he was really be able to really offset and reduce his overall mortgage costs by the rental income that he created with that front unit. Here's another income property that we just finished last year. This is another exciting success story. So this was basically a duplex. The back unit at the time I was involved was not occupied. They were just using it as storage. And it was in pretty bad shape. It was not really habitable. I don't think it was any kind of rentable condition. So I think the strategy all along with this homeowner, this was a refi, was to really convert this to what you see here on the right. That had a construction budget of, I think, like $350,000. So, I mean, just sort of imagine, look what you can build and create with a $350,000 budget. Again, this is in Ocean Beach area. So hopefully you're getting the idea that we can really create some equity opportunities and some cash flow opportunities. So what he did is he moved into this side of it, and now he's renting the front unit. And I think that was a 3 bedroom, 1 bath layout design. Here's another one that we're actively working on right now as we speak. This is building 3 units in the backyard. And so this is just underway. So we're actively involved creating income properties with these renovation loans. Here's a project, the first ADU that we did. We started the funding process and funded at the end of 2018. They built this in pretty short order. I think started it at the beginning of December. We were done by April 1st. So I put down the configuration. It was 745 square feet. That came into around $276 in terms of overall costs. And that was everything. So that included all of the plans and the permits and construction costs associated with it. I have another one underway here in the Rolando area. This was a purchase, and one of the reasons why the cost is so low is basically they built out an unconditioned part of the basement of it. So we got some real attractive costs per square foot associated with that. That's literally in the final stages. I think we have one more draw inspection to complete the project. So that's going to be another success story to share with you. So let's talk about ADU options. I don't see any questions coming in as of yet. So it's 9:30. Okay, so I think we're on time here. So, what I like to say is, we have a lot of opportunities with the types of ADUs that we can develop. Attached, usually we can only go to 50% of the existing dwelling. So if we have a 1,200 square foot primary dwelling, we can go up to 600 on the attachment. Detached does not tie to the primary dwelling. We can go up to 1,200 square feet. And then junior ADUs, that's when we are reportioning some of the existing conditioned space of the property. So maybe we're converting a bedroom and we're going to make that a separate unit. That allows us to go up to 500. I talked to a contractor recently. The city of San Diego is actually considering to increasing that to 800 square feet, but that hasn't been approved as of yet. We can convert a garage. So a two-car garage is 400 square feet. For those that need to sort of visualize that, that's sort of a small footprint. We can certainly do sort of a loft kind of a unit in there. I think if we want to add a bedroom, we'll probably need to add to that. And we also can build above the garage. So what I always like to point out is if there's a real compelling need to do an ADU, and this could be driven by multifamily, probably the number one demand that I've seen out there is people are trying to take care of family out there, their parents, siblings, direct family members that are struggling with affordability issues. And that's really been a big driver in the marketplace. So I always like to say, when you sort of see the options that we have in front of us here, we can usually do something. It's, we don't necessarily need a big lot in order to fulfill creating a secondary unit. We have a lot of these options available to us. So I've been following the ADU emergence prior to the new ordinances that came out in 2018. Probably there was a lot of impediments to it, and one of the biggest ones was anytime we added another income property, we had to provide off-street parking, and just from an overall design process, that just killed a lot of projects. They were just dead on arrival. So that was a huge impediment. Impact fees were not proportionate or proportional. If you were building a brand new detached unit on a vacant lot, your impact fees would be identical for an ADU or a standard size new construction build. So they really weren't skewed. So you really had to pay high impact fees in proportionate to the dwelling that you were building. You had to bring in all new utility services. So that really adds to the costs. And as a result, the number of permits prior to the new ordinances were dismal. I have a slide on that. So they just weren't happening. So when the 2018 came into play, one of the biggest changes is they removed the off-street requirement if it could be serviced by public transportation within a half a mile. So that was a big one. So that opened up a lot of design opportunities that weren't previously available. Impact fees, again, that had to be proportionate to it. We started to see County of San Diego and I think La Mesa started to remove impact fees. So that was a big stimulant. I mean, that's tens of thousands of dollars of savings right there. New utilities weren't required. So again, you start looking at that, and that's saving another tens of thousands of dollars of costs. Sprinkler systems weren't required if they weren't present in the primary dwelling. So if you look at these last three bullets, I mean, we're saving tens of thousands of dollars of overall cost for the project. So this really starts to look very, very attractive. Owner occupancy was a requirement. There was a couple of exceptions like in San Diego and La Mesa. Short-term restrictions, this really wasn't intended to be a play to generate income with short-term rentals. So they have a minimum of 30-day rental requirement associated with them. Building department had to complete their review process within 100 days. So things really started to explode with these new ordinances. I was tracking all of the local building departments in San Diego County. You can see some of them, like the coastal ones, had some maximum restrictions on sizes. Some other locations determine the ADU size based off the lot size. So I was tracking all of that. Uh, what had happened in 2019 is they basically went back through legislation and really just looked at a lot of the hurdles. And, in my opinion, they sort of removed every hurdle that we were running into in the marketplace. So, nothing new with off-street parking, impact fees. We weren't getting a lot of cooperation from some of the building departments on really adjusting what we thought the impact fees were being. So there was a lot of complaints. This was all being administrated by HCD, Housing Community Development. So that's a state agency. Um, they were sort of hamstrung because they could not um, enforce a lot of these restrictions. So legislation came in and basically waived impact fees under 750 square feet. So that's a statewide mandate, and then anything above that had to be proportional. Nothing new with the new utilities, fire sprinklers, owner occupancy. So now owner occupancy has been removed. That's basically going to expire in 5 years. They're going to come back and look at that and just see what kind of impact that had. Um, Understandably, there are neighborhoods that are very concerned as how this is going to impact neighborhoods. So they're going to revisit that in 5 years. So this is going to really open up a lot of investment opportunities now that that owner occupancy requirement has gone away. No changes to short-term restrictions. There's sort of an amnesty opportunity. I fielded several questions in the recent past here where people do have unpermitted conditions. They're trying to figure out how to approach this. So this is a great time to take care of this. You don't want to be on the other side of the equation where you're caught. The penalties can be pretty significant. Um, they removed the ADU size that is based off of lot size. So that's been removed, and you can saw there was a couple of counties here in San Diego that's going to have to change the ordinance to satisfy the statewide ordinance. And the same thing with square footage is they cannot allow minimum size anything less than 850 square feet. So those coastal communities are going to be sort of in play here in terms of having to now follow the state mandate. Garage conversion. So here's one where if you did a garage conversion, the garage spaces that you were displacing had to be accommodated on the lot. So that went away. So you're no longer having to worry about accommodating off-street parking when you do a garage conversion. I mean, these are really pretty significant, formidable changes. HCD basically got some teeth to it. So they went from not just being an administration of all of these statewide ordinances, they actually have enforcement authority. So if a building department is not complying, they actually turn it over to the state legal enforcement to determine next steps. ADUs are now allowed in multifamily. So that's another opportunity. They actually changed the review process, if you remember, from 120 days to now 60 days. So that's going to put a lot of pressure on a lot of these local building departments out there to find ways of really starting to sort of streamline the process to get these ADUs approved. They'll allow up to 2 ADUs on a single property. So you can do a standard, so that's attached or detached or garage conversion, and a junior. So you can now add up to 2 additional ADUs as long as one of them is a junior. And then HOAs, they cannot restrict ADUs. I mean, this is just sort of phenomenal that, all of these are now in play now and the kinds of opportunities that this is going to create in the marketplace. So I think this is an exciting time to really get up to speed on ADUs and the types of opportunities that it's going to present in the marketplace. So look at this. Here's sort of the run rate of ADUs, and San Diego, I mean, single digits. In 2017, when we started to get some activity, it took a quantum leap. Look what Los Angeles did in that same time frame. So things pretty much really started to explode. 2020, the forecast that I saw was jumping up to 450. Look at Los Angeles. Los Angeles was estimated at 10,000. I did this slide, I think only a month ago, and I just saw a press release recently where this actually got readjusted to 13,000 applications for ADUs out there. So it's absolutely exploding, and there's no reason why we shouldn't start seeing these types of results throughout the state of California. So here's some real valid proof on what an exciting opportunity that this is. So one of the advantages with this is, because I work with contractors all the times with these renovation loans, I always ask them, what kind of costs are we talking about? Because you already own the land. What kind of dollar cost per square foot are we looking at? Most of the time, that discussion starts at around $200. I don't personally think that's realistic. It's going to go up from that, but that is where the conversation starts. When I turn around and look at what market value and what we've paid for real estate, and I've been tracking it the last 2 years in San Diego County, it was well over $400 a square foot. So we have a real attractive equity opportunity. Lots of variables tied into that, obviously, but real estate investors know this, builders know this, and this really gives us an opportunity for homeowners and home buyers to really participate this and really create some attractive equity with this kind of a strategy. Cash flow. So let's example that I've shared on cash flow. If we can convert a garage, so that's 400 square foot property, and we finance that with these renovation loans, the construction cost comes in somewhere around $80,000. I've had other contractors saying it's closer to 100. And I'm using $80,000. If I finance that $80,000, that impacts my monthly mortgage payment by $500. So that's what it's costing me, $500 a month to build out and create an ADU in a converted garage. If I turn around and try to see what I can rent that out anywhere in San Diego, it's usually north of $1,000. Seen some scenarios, it could be as little as $800. But on the high side, if we're going into North Park or La Jolla, it's more like $1,500, $1,800 square foot. So this is very attractive cash flow, and this really just starts to make a real sound investment from that standpoint. Real estate investors know this as they start putting the numbers together. This really starts to create very attractive cap rates. In fact, they could look at an investment purchase, and I think they should start looking at purchasing properties with the intention of adding an ADU, because that cap rate really starts to look attractive. I'm beginning to see investment organizations start coming in. I've talked to several of them over the past. They're beginning to just start putting a process in place to start to go after this in the marketplace. So let's talk about some challenges here when we start looking at creating an income opportunity particularly in a real estate transaction. So my biggest concern is there's two. One is the timeline it takes to complete this, and the biggest one is we have to put plans together, and plans means hiring an architect. I think architects could be a bottleneck if this market really takes off. I had one push me out 3 months before they could even look at the plans. So that's not going to fly in an escrow window out there. So we have to have some preliminary plans as a minimum. And we could get hung up because the lender, I've been in scenarios where lenders want to see stamped plans. In other words, worked its way through the building department to they're actually approved, stamped and ready to go. That's not going to work in a purchase scenario. We still can do it, but it's just something we just need to manage it and manage it up front. Reach out to the lender, make sure we can get plans put together. Just make sure that this is going to be supported. So, so that's sort of plan A. Plan B might be is considering going and purchasing the property and then coming back and reapply for a renovation loan. We've had to do that in a couple of instances where we're just not going to get the cooperation from the listing side. Picking up some sound noise here, so give me 1 second. Got it. Okay, sorry for the disturbance. Okay, so the bottom line is we have a sort of a plan A and a plan B strategy. Plan B is going ahead and purchasing the property and then coming back and refinancing it with a renovation loan. I like that because it really just gives us all the time we need to put the plans together, go through the permitting process. Candidly, that can take months to get to that point. And in the meantime, we could working on the funding aspect of the process. The other challenge here is the appraisal process. As a lot of you experienced realtors already know, they're out looking for comparables, and that's sort of an Achilles heel for us. Is sometimes we'll go into areas where there's not a lot of income properties to compare to out there. I'm in the North Park area, so I feel confident that the appraiser won't have challenges coming up with comparables out there. So that's just something, we need to sort of anticipate, do our homework. We can do some of that preliminary research as we start looking into specific areas out there just to see what kind of comps exist. And any one of us can start doing that, going through popular real estate websites out there. I would say, by hook or by crook, we should do everything we can to really make this loan transact and sort of look at any kinds of resources, try to bring in additional funding because, the equity is still there, the cash flow is still there. It'll just take time in some areas where ADUs become more and more prevalent and this become less of an issue. But frankly, that's going to be years away. Some other issues to be aware of. A lot of the income properties that I showed you that we completed, not the ADUs, but the other income properties that we've created, is we've been able to use the rental income to help them qualify for the loan qualification. That's not allowable for ADUs at this time. So again, it's going to be important that the home buyer can qualify for the full loan amount if they're applying for an ADU. We talked a little bit about this previously, attached versus detached units. If we're funding through HUD, it has to attach. That hasn't changed. Fannie Mae, however, back in 2018, allowed us to start doing detached units. A lot of us experts out there don't really understand the real need for attachment. Never been able to get a good answer about that. Fannie Mae just made some common sense decisions when they really reviewed their home style loan, and they allowed it. They allowed to do detached properties. So if we're doing detached properties, we should only be talking about Fannie Mae home style. And then HUD still has that owner occupancy requirement. So again, if we're staying with the 203K, this really requires owner occupancy. That's separate from the ordinances, right? The ordinances doesn't require it, but the loan does. However, the Fannie Mae does allow us to work with investors. So Fannie Mae really becomes sort of the hero with these types of loans, particularly if you're working with investors and you're planning on doing a detached unit. That really seems the more popular options from the projects that I've been involved with. Everybody wants to do a detached unit. So I think I had already gone through this purchase strategy here, but it's really important for the buyer to really maintain good communications with the listing agent and really keeping them apprised of the process and just being able to just let them know that, I think if we feel good about, the buyer qualifying for the loan amount and we feel good about the appraisal, and the rest of this is just a process that we need to work through. And we need to sort of sell that confidence to the selling side that we might need additional time to close escrow on this. And then I had already talked about purchase refinance as a backup strategy going forward. So that pretty much wraps up my ADU portion of it. I'm running short on time here, so I'm just going to sort of barrel through this here. As I mentioned, we have a marketing kit here, and I've maintained this renovation loan website, and I have a specific section on ADUs. See if I can bring that up here. Here it is. So hopefully you can see that. So I have a section that just focuses on ADUs. A lot of great information here that you should feel comfortable referencing. We actually keep all of our, we have maintained plans that are available from City of Encinitas, County of San Diego. We have some renderings. So this is a great resource for you to reference both for your potential clients and yourself as you're looking for additional information. Talk about the process, how the process works. I also have all of the new ordinances listed here and all of the new changes associated with them. So again, a lot of good current information to work off of. And then there's one other important page here that really just talks about financing. So there's several financing options that are available. This web page sort of goes through all of them. We don't expect you to sort of figure out which direction you want to go. We've actually set up a form for you to fill out to forward to us, and that really helps us put you in contact with us and a financing specialist to help you work out your financing needs. So I'm going to go back to my presentation here. In terms of our marketing kit, we talked about our website. We also have a lot of before and after pictures. We have a lot of collateral that's available to you. So when we send out the survey to you, we're going to encourage you to forward us your contact information. We can start to set up this content for you so you could now start talking to prospective clients. We're not going to make you experts by any means, but this will allow you to start that discussion, and you're going to see that we're going to be here to support you. Here's another attractive document that's going to be available that we can customize this for you. So where you see my contact information there, we'll be able to create this customized collateral. So this is another great talking piece of custom collateral that you can now start to offer your clients. You could start posting on your social media and website. So we just want to emphasize that, we're going to be able to support you from a marketing perspective, pre-sales, more importantly, throughout the escrow process. And then, I'm staying with the process through fund control, through completion of it. So we will be sending you out a survey. Look forward to any kinds of additional questions that you may have for us. Please give us some feedback so we could certainly take this as constructive improvements for us. But most importantly, is this is an opportunity to have us develop a marketing kit. Very simple. We'll just collect some of your contact information, your logos, headshots. We'll start putting collateral together. We'll do a brief marketing consultation to help you on your way. So again, thank you. We have a hard close here, so I'm going to close it up here. Thanks again for all of your participation. We look forward to hearing from you, answering any of your questions. Join our ADU group on Facebook. Looking forward to helping you in your success. Thanks again. Take care.